All right, looked at the different kinds of markets, ranging from pure market capitalism all the way to monopolies. Now, what happens, and this is something that happens throughout the whole process, from pure market, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, monopoly, during all of this, is you can have a market failure. Now, market failure can be a big thing, it can be a little thing. You can be a massive thing like in Venezuela where everybody's eating their dogs, or it can be something in one specific area like the video game crash of the 1980s or the automobile crash of early 2000s, I believe it was. So there's a lot. And again, these can be big, these can be small, it can be in the middle, it can wreck an entire country, or it can wreck a just certain sector within the economy. So kind of keep that in mind as we kind of go through this. These can be big, these can be small, but these are just the things that can cause a market to crash. So, um, first one, there's not enough competition. Over time, you have mergers and combinations of companies result in larger and larger and larger and fewer firms that dominate an industry. Now, what can happen is these large companies lack the ability to adapt to changing situations. So, like, for example, Disney right now. Disney, they own over 50% of the entertainment market, especially after they bought out Fox. And they pretty much control everything involving entertainment. They either own it outright or they have enough of a controlling interest in it. Like, for example, Disney may not own Hulu, but it owns about 75% of it. So what happens is, in this situation, and this is something that's very kind of telling right now, if you're following kind of what's going on with Disney as of 2020 and even a little bit before, Disney set out to make a kind of product. This has impacted how they do the Star Wars franchise. This is how they impacted the Marvel franchise. This is how it's going to impact the remakes. So because they're trying to go for a specific kind of formula within their movies, this is why the Star Wars movies have not been doing so well. This is why the Mulan movie tanked. And this is why a lot of people are very kind of concerned about what's going to happen with the MCU. So, because they have it up top, we are going to make this kind of movie. Um, kind of moving away from the old formula and adopting the new formula of movies. It's impacting all of their products. Now, because of this, and I'm just going to pick on specifically Lucasfilm for this, because of this, they have adopted this sort of policy. This is the kind of films we're going to make. You now have a civil war within the Lucasfilm area where it is costing them money because you have, the people that are trying to kind of take Star Wars back to what it used to be, and then you have the Kathleen Kennedy side, which are trying to continue Star Wars as is. And this is something for the Marvel MCU thing. The whole new like the new phase of the Marvel movies is supposed to center around Captain Marvel. Like, she is supposed to be kind of the centerpiece, just like how Iron Man and Captain America were the centerpiece in the old, pretty much from the beginning all the way up to Endgame. So yeah, you have these policies that are put out. People don't necessarily like it. It is costing the company money, and they're slow because Disney is so big. It is slow to react to the change, the transition, the needs of the market. So there's that. Second thing that can cause a market to fail is not enough information. Information is key. People need to know what's going to happen. Think coronavirus. We don't have a lot of good information. At least as of now. You have some people saying one thing, some people saying another. You have people saying, and again, you have people saying all the way from the virus is not that big of a deal, it's just like a major flu, all the way to people saying that the virus has now mutated and now masks and antibacterial or antiviral wipes and the wet wipes and stuff like that, the alcohol wipes and the alcohol hand sanitizers, the virus has mutated beyond that and it's not going to work and we're all going to die. So, in essence, this is part of the situation. You have bad information. Now, what that bad information is, we don't necessarily know. So, because of this, because we don't have enough good information, people are reacting the way that they're reacting. All the way from people saying, again, it's no big deal, to lock everything down because we're all going to die. That is having economic consequences. Now, if we knew one way or another, if we had solid evidence, solid proof, and yes, politics play a role in this, businesses, individuals, companies could make the appropriate decisions. But again, information, especially good information, is hard to come by. And this is something that can happen anywhere. What's going to happen 20 years from now? What's going to happen 5 years from now in oil? What's going to happen 5 years from now in computers, AI, anything? People don't have the right information. They bet on the wrong horse. It fails. Again, a lot of people used to say MySpace was going to be around forever. People invested a lot in MySpace, and now they're broke. Two other things, is resources can't or won't move. Remember back to the circular flow model. Everything in the economy has to flow. Resources have to move. Resources do no good, whether it's land, labor, capital, whatever, it has to move. Labor has to get a job. Land has to be used. Capital has to be used. If it doesn't, if it stays still, the economy is going to grind to a halt. And this is something that, again, when we were talking about the circular flow model, I referred back to this, or I talked about this. If it doesn't move, if the parts don't move, if people don't get jobs and then get paid and then spend their paycheck on stuff, it's not going to work. And this is the thing that can cause the market failure. Another thing is you have too few public goods. And these are the government provided goods and services. So, and again, think about it as an infrastructure. Roads, bridges, maybe even healthcare, education, those types of things. Those things that the government provides. May not be enough or may be in repair or maintenance, be in need of that. So again, like you got broken bridges and crumbling airports and those types of things. If you have bad roads, nobody's going to want to drive on your roads. Nope. If you have people put in a highway. This is something that happened, I think it was during the 50s, when you have like the interstates highway system put in place. What happened was some towns died because, economically, they died because the highway did not go through their town. The road was put in place. The old, windy roads that people used to travel weren't there. People didn't take it. They took the interstate. They didn't go to these small towns. They died. Other small towns became cities because you had all these people passing through, and that enabled the small little town to grow into a major city, or at least a bigger town, or a small city. So again, this is actually one of the things that feeds. Like I am out of Houston. If you're watching this outside of Houston, one of the things that helps Houston grow, I-10. We are it's a main drag of all the travel within the southern, along the Gulf Coast. This feeds into things like, helps New Orleans grow, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, all the way up to Pensacola. And I-10 connects all of those cities. And then another thing you got to think about is you have these effects. You have these things. Like, for example, I-10. That helps other cities grow. That is what we call a spillover. These are uncompensated side effects. So again, when you do something within an economy, whatever it may be, is could be a big thing, could be a small thing. Can be, I'm going to move my factory here. I'm going to build a hospital here. I'm going to pass a tax law. I'm going to make cars. There will be consequences. Good, bad, indifferent. There's always consequences. And often these consequences cannot be predicted. So like, for example, something that was that California, governor of California, Gavin Newsom, he and the legislature there, they passed a law saying that they're going to outlaw gas-powered cars by 2035. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means, internal combustion engines will no longer be able to be sold, and I think maybe used. I'm not totally sure about it, but that means, well, what does that mean? All the gas stations are going to shut down. They'll either shut down or be turned into electric. That is going to incur costs. That is going to hurt some people, help some people. That is going to, the gas station owner is going to have to shell out money to upgrade his stuff. The people who are doing the upgrades, they're going to get paid. They're going to like it. You put in an airport somewhere. Like, for example, small town near outside of Houston, place where I used to work, town called Brookshire. There's a small airport there, really, really small airport. It's like an executive airport. It's like, they have the small planes, nothing big. But there was a push to actually make that a larger airport. Now, what could have happened was, if that larger airport had been put in place, if that small little airport was allowed to grow, it would have made the city of Brookshire, would have made it bigger, would have brought in money and tax revenue and commerce and those types of things. Well, it didn't pan out, mainly because the local government was probably corrupt. I don't really know. I'd never lived there, but that was what people were saying. And they didn't go there. That led, unintended consequences. So, but again, these are kind of those side effects. And again, they can be positive, they can be negative, they can be both, depending on what you're doing. You have the automobile. People are able to drive. However, you have pollution. You have the ambulance that can, come save your life if you're having a heart attack. But at the same time, the environment issues. We'll just leave it at that. So this is kind of where the question of the role of government comes in. And again, if you're taking economics in Texas, you're a senior, you have usually take government as kind of the companion course, either at the same time or the next semester or whatever. But the question is this: what should, how, and in what way should the government be involved? So again, this is kind of the big political question. How much control, say, involvement should the government have within the economy? And usually when people are having this conversation, this is the question. And it's the question of those spillovers. Because you have the spillovers within the economy. What does that mean? How should those spillovers be dealt with? Who should deal with them? Should it be the government? Should it be not the government? Should the government just stay out of it? Should it be the federal government? Should it be the state government? Should it be the local government? And also what should be left to the free market? Because if you have a spillover, should the government get involved? And in what way? And again, should they even get involved? And should you just leave the market to deal with it? And again, these are all those different kinds of questions. So again, as of recording this, yesterday was the presidential debates between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. One of the economic question was really about this. Take everything about, healthcare, Medicaid, Obamacare, the economy, the economic ramifications of coronavirus. If you take all that stuff, all the fancy words, all the buzz terms, all the, oh my God, XYZ, this is what that question was really about. What should the government do? Should the government do anything? And how should the government do it? And then also, what level? Should it be Donald Trump that does it? Should it be your governor that does it? Or should it be your mayor or local leaders that do it? Or should none of them do anything and just let you do it as a private individual? These are all important questions. And again, this is why government and economics are tied together, hand in hand. Because what the government does will have economic ramifications. The economy does something, there's going to be economic ramifications. People are going to petition the government to either A, get involved, or B, stay out of it. Another example of this, the wildfires in California. That's a breakdown of infrastructure. Because again, why do those wildfires happen? Well, you have... It's illegal to do controlled burns by California state law. At least that's my understanding of it. And it is illegal to do the controlled burns, meaning they burn up the dead brush and stuff like that. It does, because you have people who say, well, if they do the controlled burns, you will have the side effect of smoke and air pollution and those types of things. Valid enough. But at the same time, not doing something leads to consequences. So again, here, this is kind of the thing. And this is where markets fall. This is why governments get involved. Because California, I'm really picking on them today. California, they have a policy. They have a policy to do X. Because they have a policy, it is going to lead to consequences. And this is what happens within an economy. Nothing happens in a vacuum. If you try to, it's like an economy is almost like a Jenga tower. You have all the little blocks stacked together, and you remove and you move and you pull out and you put on top and you do stuff. Well, that's what happens within an economy. An economy is a lot like a Jenga tower. You put in a policy, you're going to move a block. You're going to take out a block and put it somewhere else. And if you mess with it too much, or somebody comes along and just bumps the table, the Jenga tower is going to fall. And what a government tries to do, and what a society tries to do by extension, is they try to have the tower, build the tower in a way that A, somebody can bump the table and the tower still stands, and also be able to make the adjustments as needed. Because, again, you have the Jenga tower, people are constantly bumping into the table. But at the same time, the table is also tilting here and tilting there and moving and doing all sorts of stuff. So the tower has to change and adapt accordingly. And this is the question. Who should be in charge of that? And this is really the question. Should it be the government? Should it be the individuals? And that's a question that is as old as mankind itself. And I'll leave it right there. Aside from that, I'm out.